What's going on, everyone? Welcome to another episode of the Grounded series based with the Wholesale Elite crew. I'm here with my main man, Isham.
What up? What up?
Not only the Wholesale Elite beast of a host, but also my business partner. And so we do land
Love you,
for those
dude.
that, yeah, love you too, bro. We do land for those that don't know. Maybe you do by this point. So if you're new to this episode, that's what we do. We wholesale land. We invest in land. We love dirt, essentially. And so we started this episode. Aishan came up actually with this idea to start this grounded series. Again, it's kind of like a sub series, I would say. I hope that makes a little more sense. A sub series to our actual podcast, the Wholesale Elite podcast. And this, we just wanted to focus a little more on our business model and our land side of things rather than interviewing, successful real estate entrepreneurs. So we made this to give back, to answer questions, to help others, and help you guys whether find your first land deal or your next land deal. So that's what this whole thing's about. So we answer questions that you have live on the show, whether you're on YouTube or Facebook. We answer them live. So hop in the chat, interact with us, communicate with us. And we want you guys to ask as many questions as possible because that's why we're here and doing this. So Isham, what's going on, dude? What's this week like been for you? I say that like I don't know, but
It's all good. Well, currently, I don't know what's happening, but ever since we've gone live, I've been bombarded with emails. I keep getting email notifications. Like I've gotten like 3 all day, and I just got like 10 in the last 5 minutes. So other than that, my life is still a little transitional. We're moving, so different studio, different environment. But man, I'm stoked because in our, as you know, in our business, there's a ton of cool stuff happening. And as these deals come to fruition that we've got going on, we're gonna for sure bring them back to you guys. And we'd love to do like a deal rundown, kind of let you know how we got it, what list we got it from, or what marketing method we used, the whole process, because they're not, every deal is different. Some are cookie cutter, some are tough. And we learn a lot, as we go through them. And so I think we've got four or five under contract, or either some are assigned, some aren't. So we've got a decent amount of stuff going on. But nonetheless, I'm stoked, man. Let's get into this.
Let's do it. Yeah, let's do it. Again, so the biggest thing with our business model, and I'd like to reiterate this on every episode, because I don't know who's new and who isn't, but we kind of have 2 different models, or at least that's what we go off of. And I don't know if the names are accurate. We kind of just made it up, but we have the builder-based model and the percentage-based model. And so for those that watch us, follow us, want to kind of learn our business model and utilize it in either their own business or as solo wholesalers, whatever it may be, just know we're not the offer-based model people. And so essentially, that's what the postcard people do. They just gather a bunch of data and they formulate a offer based on, what lots in the area are selling for. So there's no really a lot of due diligence done into the offer-based model, rather than our model, which is a builder-based model. We target infill lots. We target vacant residential, small multifamily lots, not rural, in the city or in the suburb. We go after stuff that builders, spec home builders, again, small multifamily investors are going to want to go and build on. That's what our model is based off of. So we run our numbers based on builders, build costs and their build plans and all kinds of stuff. So just know that's the difference between our model. So if you ever hear us not really talking about, well, what percentage do I offer? That's why we don't really do that. There are certain areas, absolutely, you can get away with doing that, which for those that are wanting to have an offer base or a percentage based offer, it's around 10 to 15% right now in our market. And we're in Florida. So builders are buying lots, buying dirt at 10 to 15% of what they're going to sell that home for. So if they're selling that home for $500,000 after they build it, they're going to want to be around the $50,000 range for that lot that they're going to buy. So if you want to use that, you can go off of that. This episode I'm actually really excited for because we're actually breaking down different acquisition offer methods. I guess it's the easiest way to say it. Different acquisition offer methods that we utilize in our business, and we're also learning at the same time. So keep that in mind. We've only had our land company for what, 7 months now, full-time land, 6-7 months now, full-time. And we're closing on an average 3 to 5 deals a month as a really small team. We're averaging about 40 to 50 grand a month as of right now, as our most recent month. So, again, that's really quickly and that's really recently, but that all comes with us being in land full time. And so that's something to keep in mind. But anyways, with that being said, the acquisition method, different offer models. So I'll start with the first one being our cash offer. Huge, obviously the basic one. If you've been in wholesale real estate, you've watched all of the Jamil videos, the Pace videos, the Brent videos, the Jerry Norton. Guess what they all offer? They all offer cash. Why? It's the best offer to do because it's the quickest. People that are buying dirt cash, people that are buying land cash, people that are buying houses cash, they can close really quickly because it's cash. They're not having to go to a bank to finance these things to get it done. So that's the first, every time our team or we are offering on a lot or on a piece of dirt, that's obviously the first thing we're looking for. We run our numbers based on what we can buy it cash. We don't run our numbers off of any crazy financing, seller finance. We always run numbers cash because that's the first thing we want to do. It's the most appealing to people. So keep that in mind, which most people already know that. But for those that are trying to get into the seller finance world, stick to going cash first. If you're trying to go into every deal just to try to do a seller finance deal because it sounds sexy, you sound like a really savvy entrepreneur when you're like, oh, I'm buying deals, seller finance, great. It may work for you. You may be a beast at it. I don't know. But we've just been able to experience that cash deals are king. For example, one deal that two recent deals we just went into contract with this month. One deal we made one phone call, and then the acquisition guy hit us up, and I told them to go back and offer a certain price. It took 2 phone calls to get that deal under contract in a matter of 2 to 3 hours. 2 phone calls, and that's with cash, right? That doesn't usually happen with seller finance. And then we're turning around and we're making 20 grand on that deal. So like cash is king. Anything else I'm missing, Isham, on cash? There's not a lot to talk about. Kind of.
You said we turned around and we're making how much in that deal?
20 grand.
20. You sped that off real quick, but that's impressive. You guys know that. Like it wasn't, it was a fairly quick and easy deal. And it's not a unicorn, but by any means. But yeah, cash is quick, cash is easy. And here's the thing, we always talk about the difference between land and single family, in terms of wholesaling, how it's different. I like to relate it to Australia versus the US. Like it kind of looks the same, but it's just totally different. When it comes to land, sellers are not desperate and they will let you know. They have zero need to, so if you're like waving cash around to them, they're like, like we can wait. And so all the other stuff may seem sexy, but I'm telling you right now, like cash is king. Now, if you've exhausted the cash option and you're just not there, then there's some other options, but stick with cash, offer cash. We've tried all the different, we tried starting with cash, then we tried saying cash and some of this other stuff. But what we learned is you lead with cash and just go for it. But there are other options, which I'm sure Tana will get to eventually.
Yeah, and here the thing with cash is everyone understands cash. Every seller understands what cash is. Doesn't matter where they're from, doesn't matter what the lot is. And so cash is also great, especially in land. And we'll go into this. We'll give some actual examples. But cash, sellers just understand it. It's easy for them. And so obviously you want to exert every option in terms of negotiating with cash. If absolutely nothing works, that's when we'll get into the other options that we're going to go over. But you want to stick to cash. So with that being said, there's not too much to hound there. Oh, also, I will say this. This is why cash is important too. If you're going after lots that are, 30, 40 grand, seller financing these are different types of methods usually aren't even worth it. I'm going to be honest with you. So if you're in a market where there's so many lots that are 20, 30 grand, 40 grand, good luck seller financing because the spreads aren't there. It's really hard unless the seller is like, oh, I'll take $100 as a down payment and then work some stuff out. So on those deals that we're making 2 20 grand deals on 2 separate lots this month. And they're both on lots that one we locked up for like 7,000 and the other one we locked up for 11,000. And those are cash deals, and we're about to make 20 a rip off of each. So on assignments, the next ones I'm going to get into, the next one I'm going to get into is exactly what we were just talking about, which is the seller finance. Seller finance is huge in land. It's really big in land. It's actually, if you're familiar with how to structure seller finance, owner finance terms, you're already way above most land wholesalers. And the reason for that being, as Isham mentioned earlier, is most land sellers, owners, they are not in a rush to sell, which is perfect for owner finance, for seller finance, because they don't need the money today. They don't need the money yesterday because they're in foreclosure, right? They don't care. Half of the time, they just own this lot. They've owned it for 20 years, have zero purpose with it. It's so funny because we do team meetings role plays every morning. Like we listen to callbacks. So many sellers of these lots that have owned them for like 20 years. You give them an offer. They obviously don't like the offer. And so what do they say? Oh, I was going to build on it. I'm just going to build on it. Like, no, you're not. You've owned it for 20 years. You touched it. And so that goes with, yeah, exactly. When. So those are great prospects to utilize or at least pitch an owner finance if the cash option doesn't work, just because they've already owned it for 20 years. So like the basic terms of how we would structure, and this is with builders, guys. I'm talking, we're not seller financing these deals. I guess I should clarify this. We're not seller financing these deals and then we're closing on it, taking the payment. We're still assigning these like seller finance options to builders. It's a very niche actually strategy. No one talks about it. When me and Isham first learned about it, and it kind of happened by accident, I believe, but we learned that you could actually, builders buy lots on seller finance. They actually love it. And that's not something I ever even thought of or like even heard of or even it didn't make sense to me at first, but they do. And the reason is builders, whenever they buy a lot, let's say a $50,000 lot cash, or let's say $100,000 lot, if they're about $100,000 lot cash, that's $100,000 they're out of pocket right off the rip, before they even start getting the permits and go building. But whenever you do a seller finance and say the seller was like, I'll take 10,000 down, that's only 10,000 out of pocket for that builder. Sure, they have to make monthly payments on these owner finance, but that's $500 a month is way better than $100,000 out of pocket. Because most of the time we structure our terms as a 30-year amortized loan. And this is just the most simple, this is coming from builders, guys. So obviously this is very subjective, what the deal is, what the situation is with the seller. But the most basic terms that we do with land is a 30-year amortized loan, a 5-year balloon, 5 to 7% interest. And what am I missing? I feel like I'm missing something else. Am I missing anything else? 30-year amortized. Go ahead.
Yeah. So the down payment. No, you're good.
Yes,
yeah, the down payment and all that good stuff. And one thing real quick that I do want to mention is why even go seller finance over cash? Like, we were talking earlier that a lot of builders, like we thought builders were going to dislike it, but we never really kind of brought up why. Because it seems just right out the gate that of course they would want to not pay out that much up front. But with the cash offer, we can only offer so much. If the seller just needs to be at a number that we just can't get to with cash, seller finance is a great option because we can actually offer them more money, right? And so it's great. So that $100,000 lot, if that seller's just at like 120, and we just can't get there 120, seller financing is an option. We could say, hey, look, we can get you your 120, but we need terms. We need terms on that. Like, what's terms? We break it down to them. And then usually at the end, mostly at the end, as long as there's interest involved, they end up making more than 120. And these guys aren't in a rush to make the money anyway. Every year they're paying property taxes. There's some pretty good, we are not CPAs, but there's some pretty good tax incentives for sellers to do seller financing. And so It's a great option, but it's not one we lead with, just
No.
because it's a bit troublesome. Even though we get our assignment, like everything still, it plays out well for us. We just don't. We like quick deals. So
And the other thing that Isham just mentioned there is most sellers that are looking to sell land or interested in selling, they're one of the most consistent things we hear is they don't really want to sell because they want to sell, but they're scared to sell because of capital gains tax. Because it takes a huge chunk out of some of these people's profits that they would make on the sale of their lot. And so what happens is with that seller finance option, you kind of bypass that because you're paying them a monthly payment over time to where it's not one big payment where they have to pay the tax on. They're just getting a monthly payment. It's a sexy way for sellers to make more money with less tax. They're not dealing with taxes as much. So that
hey, real quick.
Yeah.
I'm so sorry. Hey guys, by the way, just for you and savvy investors out there, capital gains tax in single family totally different from capital gains tax on vacant land. So again, I always talk about the dynamic between the two and how you would assume that it's the same, but it's very different. Single family world, you essentially, homestead, or you live in the place for 2 years and you're good. Land's totally different. You can own land for 50 years and still pay capital gains tax. Google that stuff. Look at it. It's a pretty quick find. I won't go into it here, but just wanted to throw that out there before you guys start talking to sellers about capital gains taxes and how to avoid it. So anyway, sorry, Tanner.
No, you're good. Yeah. So I'll leave it at that, which is essentially if you're prospecting and you come across a seller that wants to sell, but their biggest thing is not paying capital gains, perfect option, perfect opportunity to bring up the seller financing option and see if they'd be open to that. So that leads us into our next, which is kind of funky. Most people may not have even thought of this either, which is the owner will actually hold the dirt for the builder. So what happens is a builder, it's almost identical to seller finance minus a monthly payment. And most times sellers will be open to hold the dirt without even a down payment. And so essentially what happens is that seller will they're leasing their lot to this builder. A builder is going to build on that lot, sell that home, and then they're going to come to an agreement on how much that builder is going to pay back that seller after that build. And there again, the benefit for a seller of doing this is the fact that one, they get a partner with the builder. Essentially, they get a partner with them. Two is I just completely lost my train of thought.
More money.
There it is. Yeah, you're the sellers. You're giving the option to the seller. Say, hey, and look, it may take longer to get paid, but we can pay you $50,000 more than what we would have paid you before. Why? Again, because the builder is not coming out of pocket to purchase the dirt. He's coming out $0. And so builders love that. The less they can spend on the dirt and more on the build, the more money they ultimately can make, because they can, instead of being again $100,000 out of pocket, they can maybe put $100,000 back into that property and make the fixtures a little nicer. They can do other things to where now that ARV of that home goes up. So now the spread that they're going to sell it for is bigger. So there's a lot of intricate options. This is a great one again for if a seller is just not really in a hurry to sell, but they're open to it. The only difference again with this is there's no monthly payment. And so you're probably thinking what's the benefit? Why would they not just do a seller finance? Well, seller finance to some people just scares them because they don't understand it. So this is a lot easier for them to understand, which they feel safer with this method, ultimately leading to a closed deal. So you can still assign these type of deals. There is in these situations where the owner will hold the dirt. Some still want a down payment. They don't care for a big one, but they still want to see some money up front that goes at closing, essentially, to prove that, hey, look, they're legit. They're not just going to get walked on by a builder that's building on it. And then as the wholesaler, you would just add your fee on basically part of that down payment, the exact same way you would structure a seller finance deal. And that's how you get paid on one of these type of deals. Or if you've got great relationship with builders like we do, our builders they'll pay us after the build too. And we're okay with that. We're not against that, because essentially we're completely hands off, do nothing. And at some point down the road, we get a paycheck after the sale. So if you have good relationship with builders, that's an option for you. That kind of just happens naturally, to be honest. That's not something I go to builders and pitch. That's actually stuff that builders have pitched to us and say, hey, bring dirt, or bring this situation where the owner holds the dirt. We'll work out some form of payment, whether it's upfront at closing or whether it's on the back end after the build and the build sells. So this is more of just kind of have to know the right people, but another phenomenal option for those that are not in a hurry to sell. Just another little tool in your tool belt. Look into this though, guys. We haven't actually done one of these all the way through. We've had situations where builders are willing to do it. We've had sellers, but we've just never been able to get the numbers to pencil. We're working on a few that are like this, but all I can explain is the experience that we have right now from what we've dealt with. And so we've dealt with these situations. We just haven't actually closed on one yet. So doesn't mean it won't happen, but
let me add to that. Yeah, if you don't mind. So something else about owner holds dirt, right? Guys, keep in mind, we're investors, right? We're entrepreneurs. We're not wholesalers, right? And so we can actually be the people that hold the dirt. It doesn't have to be the seller, right? So if you come across a smoking deal and you've got the opportunity and the time, it's just like if you're in the single family space and you come across this deal where you're like, man, I can actually flip this. I may not have the money, but I know I have access. There's private money lenders, there's things like that. So there's opportunities where, matter of fact, the first time we learned about this, we were considering actually buying the lot and doing the thing, doing the deal with one of our builders. So just keep in mind, man, this is a really cool thing. And just to kind of, I've got one of those brains where I really need stuff to be broken down at the most basic level. And so for any of you that are like me and are like still scratching their head, how does owner hold the dirt work? So you own the land already, right? I own 123 Main Street. It's a vacant lot. I've owned it for 3 years, whatever. It doesn't matter how long I've owned it, but I own it, right? It's deeded out to my name. I can say, hey, look, builder, Mr. Mrs. Builder, if you want to build a house on this lot, right, and you don't want to pay me the $100,000 that I want for my lot, because I know you're going to build a mega mansion on here, what we can do is we can partner up. We draft up a real simple promissory note, do a performance deed, and do just real basic, simple stuff. And in that way, if you build on the lot, like you don't just take it over, like it's still my lot. And so how it works is you build on it, boop, 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 boop. There's now a house on there. There's a $1.2 million house. That house gets sold. And obviously before all this happens, you guys come to an agreement on what your split's going to be. But let's just say it's 50-50, $1.2 million house. The builder's in for however much money. You guys are both set to make, let's say, the profit on that is, I don't know, 400,000, right? 50-50 split, that's 200,000 going to you, 200,000 going to the builder. And guess what? The builder never had to come out of pocket to pay for that land, right? Yep. So you work something out to where, hey, look, you're buying this land from me, right? So maybe you get a little bit more of that piece of the pie because they never came out of pocket for the land. Right. So you still got to pay that land off or, you still got to buy it. So there's fun ways to do this thing. But it's just ultimately ways to find solutions to getting a deal done.
Yeah. And a good leverage point with a seller is like a lot of sellers be like, when do I get paid? If a seller holds the dirt and a builder builds on it to sell, guess who's the first person that gets paid? It's that seller. There's a pecking order in which the money gets distributed. And that seller is the very first one that builder has to pay off. Before his contractors, before any of that. So again, it's just another fun tactic to use for sellers that aren't in a hurry, don't understand what seller finance is. So it's just a good method to keep and look into. And again, kind of happens naturally when you start really connecting with builders. So you bring up this stuff, they get so excited. Would you be open to if a seller were to hold the dirt and you were to build on it? They're like, yes, please. Like they like beg.
Especially the ones that have been saying they're going to build on it. Those are the fun ones. If they're like, oh, I'm going to build. I've been looking to build. It's like, yeah, you've owned the lot for 4 years. Like, are you going to, like, what's holding you back? Well, I just don't know, the right builders. Can you recommend some builders and whatnot to me? I'm like, we could, but then we're not going to make any money in that deal. Hey, we've got a solution. So those are, there's some really good stuff out there. And real quick, guys, if you've got questions, throw them in. If you're on Facebook, make a comment. We'll be able to see it. If you're on YouTube, make a comment, or throw it in the comment section, I guess, or whatever. But we will see your questions. We'll get them answered right now live. So if you guys are in any kind of a situation where you've got a land deal and you're just curious, hey, how do I do this? How do I evaluate this? How do I blah blah blah, whatever the question is, throw it in. We're happy to do it. Even though we're going over this stuff, we still want to answer questions. So make sure you're asking them. Take advantage of this time, please.
Yeah, we want you guys to ask questions. That's why we do this. We honestly go over stuff like this to fill time, because we want ultimately you guys to just hammer us with questions. Easy, hard, doesn't matter. That's what we want. We want to give back. So, but with that being said, we're going to move on to the next one, which is novations. People use novations in land. It's honestly, I feel like it's the next big strategy that people should be using. Because even though there's seller finance, even though there's owner holds the dirt, this one makes the most sense typically for land, especially when you're getting into the 100,000 plus lots, like the little more luxurious. So what we look for in a novation land deal, we want areas that either have an HOA, that are maybe more suited to a custom home builder. And so what do I kind of mean by this is there's certain neighborhoods, right? Every market has certain neighborhoods where it's a gated neighborhood, or there's just an HOA, right? It's a little more luxury compared to other areas of your market, where most of these people are residential, like they're maybe an older demographic where they make a little more money in their career, they maybe have settled down. And so they're looking to buy dirt where they can just build a dream home on it and live in it. These are the perfect opportunities to go find these type of lots and novate them, because these are the ones that these people are looking for on the market. Now, when you get into these 30, 40,000 lower end lots, perfect for a spec home play, which usually you don't have to novate those type of deals, because there's just, again, not enough room. If you have to bring an agent involved, there's just not enough spread. But novations are huge. Again, why? Because most sellers in land, we'll say for the 100th time on this episode, most sellers in land are not in a hurry to sell. There's usually not a crazy big pain point. They just want to get as much money as possible. A lot of people have bought dirt, bought parcels, bought land, and they just totally intended on sitting on it. Property taxes on these land deals aren't that much. And so they're okay with paying the property taxes. Thus, they're just waiting for their land to appreciate. They may have bought it 10 years ago for $60,000 and now it's worth $100,000. So they want $100,000. Perfect option to novate if they don't take cash deal first. Always go down the pecking order.
Oh, here we go.
Here's the.
Okay.
Am I losing?
I hear you talking. There you go. You're back.
Okay.
Welcome back.
So with the thing with the sellers and novations, and I feel like people novate illegally so many times, because here's the thing is you have to have, you have to be the attorney in fact. And what does that mean? So basically you have to get the seller's permission to sign off on their listing docs, right? So if you go to a seller and say, hey, here's my cash offer. Okay, my cash offer doesn't work. We can't do a deal cash. But what I am willing to do is help you, try to get the dollar amount that you want. We just can't be your buyer, but we can do everything we can to help you try to get that number. And so one of those methods is by us listing that property for you, and we'll cover the closing cost and we'll cover the agent commission. So that way, say you want 100,000, we'll list it for 150, right? And so if we sell that thing at 150, you still net $100,000, right? Because most people, if they were to list that lot by themselves and have an agent list it, they've got to cover some of the closing costs. They've got to cover that agent commissions, buyer and seller usually. So now instead of making that $100,000, they're making, let's say, I don't know, I'm just gonna throw a number, $70,000, right? So they're having to pay that $30,000. But with an ovation, we're covering all that for them. So it's a sexy method to still be able to do a deal, to still be able to utilize an exit strategy to make some money. But we cover closing costs. We cover agent commissions. And so what would that look like? In terms of you essentially, again, you just have to get permission from the seller to list it. And so there's actually a document. It's a one-page document. And basically an authorization document that says, hey, say the seller's name is John Smith. Hey, John Smith, he signs. And hey, John Smith, you're giving the power for Tanner Santucci to sign off on the listing docs. Literally, it's a one-page document. Very simple. It's really easy to understand. When the seller signs that, now you have the legal ability to sign with an agent, to sign their listing agreement for them to list it. But again, that's huge innovation. I've seen so many people now that I actually know, because we're in the middle of innovation right now. Now that I know, I've seen so many people do it illegally because they just go ahead and, as the wholesaler or the investor, okay, they were. They just sign for the seller anyways. No. It's actually illegal. Most people don't catch it, but you come across a savvy agent or a savvy broker, they're going to catch it and they're going to be like, this is illegal. You can't do that. And so you just keep that in mind. I will actually I can put a link I'll do it after the episode at some point. Because we're putting together a Google Drive for everyone that doesn't know with builder questions. And I'll put that in there for the Novation stuff. But again, just make sure that they sign that. Anyways, Isham, what do you think novations are important for, and like why do you think they're so valuable for land?
Yeah, oh my gosh, novations are something that we're learning is it's such a godsend. Like it's incredible. Look, so the one thing that I try and always ascertain is like what's the value to the seller, right? Like in order to get them to sell us their land, there has to be some sort of value proposition, right? And sellers typically for land aren't motivated. They're not, just like, man, I got to get rid of this thing. I'm running into problems. Usually sellers will buy land as an investment. You know what I mean? Because they want to sit on it and just let it appreciate and then sell it later, or they're going to build on it. Those are that's 98% of current landowners right now. Everyone else was given the land and they just probably don't want it anyway. And so those are the motivated people usually you can come across. But let's look at the value that a novation brings, because you may be thinking like I was at first. If you're a seller and you're like, why don't I just list it myself? Right? Like, why? Like, look, I'll just list it. Who cares? I'll pay the the little bit of commission and whatnot. Here's what you're up against. And this is why I would, there's a reason why we say cash first and then eventually work your way to this. If you plan on getting into the point in your land investing business where you do want to run some novations, build a freaking network first, right? Because here's the thing. Okay, so say you do a novation, right? Now you go find an agent who's going to try and sell your deal. What if that agent is the same agent that put another, land deal on contract that's been sitting on Zillow or in the MLS for 2 years? Clearly that agent doesn't have the network that it takes to move that property, right? So before you get into novations, because you hear that it's this shiny, wonderful thing, and Britt Daniels has been talking about novations, and Todd Tobeck and all these people, I keep hearing this novation stuff. Before you jump in, just understand you want to be able to set yourself up to bring value to the seller, right? So in our situation with the novation that we're working with right now, that seller 100% could have put his property on the market, or him and his wife could have put their property on the market and sold it themselves. They could have did a FSBO, right? They could have gone with an agent, the traditional route, and put it on the market. But here's the thing, it was going to sit there. We knew it was going to sit there because we knew that no one knew how to price this thing to where it would move, right? A lot of people will just put a property on the market and just put a big dollar amount on it. And because they're not paying monthly on it or anything, just waiting for taxes, they'll just kick back and wait for an offer to come in and whatever. I was just talking on the phone to an agent yesterday, just yesterday or today, yesterday. And they have a property that is wildly overpriced, right? It's been on the market close to like 200 and something days, 250 something days. And I called the agent and I was like, hey, what's the deal with this seller? Kind of like the same stuff that, people do in agent outreach. What's the deal with this seller? Like, are they crazy? Like, did you determine this price? Did they determine the price? And partially, it was the seller was crazy. It was some also the agent's crazy because they thought they'd be able to get that number. And here's the thing, when it comes to novation, I would love that the agent wasn't in the way, because a novation would have been a beautiful opportunity for this seller. Because here's the thing, we come with the network. We've got agents who know how to move land, not just properties, know how to move land. any agent can put something on an MLS and move on and just, it's like fishing with bobbers, just putting a bunch of
Yeah.
lures in the water and just waiting for something to bite. Those aren't the people that we work with. We work for the people that know exactly where to fish. They know exactly what bait to put on. You know what I mean? Like they know how to get in there and get it done. And so that's our proposition to the seller when we're doing an ovation is, hey, look, we're going to go under contract. Like, here's the thing. The number that we net, that we said you're going to net, you're going to net. You may see this thing on the listing for more, but that's because we're paying the closing costs. We're paying all the commissions. We're doing all that stuff. And we need to run a business as well. But you're going to net your dollar amount that we talked about. And you know what? We're going to get that thing sold in 30 days.
Yeah.
It's not going to sit on the market for 2 years or whatever, because we have the network, we have the people. So just make sure before you guys graduate in innovations that along the way, while you're doing cash deals, right? While you're learning with agents, while you're networking with people in your market, in your area, start learning the people that do specialize in land. Start paying attention to the consistent agent names whenever you're coming across land deals and whatnot. Build your network before you start novating. So Kyle Scott, what you got? He says, I saw a lot that is like $22K in taxes owed after not paying for years, which is now probably higher than it was worth. How would a situation like that work, even if it's possible to make a deal? Take it away, Tanner.
Yeah, Kyle. So first thing, it would be nice to have a little context behind this. If it sounds like you don't think the lot is even worth $22,000. So what that tells me is the homes that are selling in that area are probably going to be very, very cheap. Probably 180 to 220 is what they're selling for. And so if that is the case, then yeah, you're probably looking at a situation where that lot is not worth what they owe in taxes. And here's the thing though, there still may be an opportunity. And so what I would do is figure out, first thing I'm looking at is what are the homes selling for in the area. That's why I brought it up first, because that's going to give me a good indication of kind of what this lot's going to be worth right off the rip. Now, if that lot is less than what 22,000, there's trouble there. Okay, yeah, 200K-ish range in the area in Virginia. So there's not much that can be done. So essentially with the sellers, what's going to have to happen is you're going to have to go to the seller and say, hey, in order to sell this property, you're going to have to pay some of these taxes off up front before it even gets to closing in order to make it worth the value-wise. But in this case, with that seller, what you can do is you can pay tax deeds. Now, I don't know if Virginia is a tax deed state, but like Florida, our market is. So what happens is people will actually pay, like there's lots that owe taxes. People will sit there, not even the owners, they'll come in and they'll start paying these taxes for the owners. And then as they pay it and eventually they pay it off, they can take possession of it away from that current owner that's not paying the taxes. Now, again, I look in to see if Virginia is a tax deed state. If it is a tax deed state, there's an opportunity there. But if that lot's less than 22,000, there's not much of an opportunity unless seller finance. You may have to sub to, like you can still sub to land. You can sub to anything. But if it's not in a mortgage and it's only under taxes, you're limited to, you pretty much can't even do sub to at this point because there's no mortgage. And so you can maybe seller finance this. But again, those taxes have to be paid off to transfer the deed. The only other option is a quit claim. But good luck finding someone that wants to buy a lot with 22,000 in taxes if the homes are only selling for 200,000. Now, what that quit claim will do is essentially you can quit claim the deed from one seller or one owner to another, and those taxes will transfer to the new owner of that lot. So say Mary Beth is the current owner that owns $22,000. John Smith is the guy that wants to buy the lot. But Mary Beth doesn't have $22,000 to pay off that lot prior to selling it. She could quit claim it over to John Smith. Now John Smith is in charge of those $22,000 in taxes. Unfortunately, there's not a lot of options, but quit claim is probably the most likely. But again, I can promise you, a builder is not going to take over. I don't want to say I can promise. I'm 99% sure a builder is not going to want to take over a lot with 22,000 in taxes if it's not worth that. So I wish I could give you better feedback, but that is unfortunately a deal I would run from, or at least try to figure out with the seller what the best option is. Maybe talk novation, just like that. And maybe you could try to list it for 35,000, and just tell the seller, hey, if we close this thing at 35, I'll give you 23,000. So that way we can pay off the taxes. You can walk away with $1,000. Kind of everyone wins. Now, I don't know if that lot's worth 35,000. You can't just throw it on the market for 35 if it's not worth that. So there needs to be a little due diligence done there, but based on the information we have, I'm walking away from it, unfortunately, and I'm not spinning my wheels on it. A lot of deals out there. That's going to probably go to auction. The city or the county is going to eventually take it over. It's going to go to auction, and that's most likely what's going to happen, because no one's going to overpay for taxes. So, Kyle, I wish I had a better answer.
I looked it up. It looked like West Virginia was a tax deed state. So I think Virginia is probably a tax lien state. Things are a little bit different for tax lien states versus tax deed states are beautiful. I mean, you essentially pay the taxes and that bad boy's yours, where tax lien states are a little different. But look into it, because tax liens, I've got a good buddy of mine in land, shout out Sean Hammond, who specializes in taxes, in tax liens and tax deeds, and he knows a lot about that stuff. And he was kind of filling me in on some of the options that he goes through. But it's a great opportunity, honestly, as an investor. Tax liens are a great opportunity to make a little change on the side, while trying to help the seller. So yeah, look into it a little bit more. But yeah, just thank you for bringing that question, by the way. That's a good one. Good question.
Yeah, that was a really good question. Yeah, so I would walk away, brother. Unfortunately, but yeah, so that's something we run into a lot, is actually owed taxes on land, because some people inherit these lots, completely forget about it. Well, you still got to pay taxes on something you inherit, and so people just forget about a lot of these things. Some people owe a lot of property, a lot of land, and they forget to pay taxes on some of these. It happens. One of the deals we're closing on this month, seller owes about $10,000 in taxes, and so she owes she owes like $10,500. We went under contract at $11,000. She didn't care about making money. She's like, I just want to make $500. And so we get to pay off her taxes. That lot's worth 30 grand. And so we're about to make almost 20 grand on it, but we're able to help the seller. So unless a situation like that is with this 22,000, there's not much else to do. So that's all the insight I can give you. But anyways, that's awesome. Thank you again, Kyle, for asking that. I did want to bring up something that has kind of been on my mind with some land, and I was thinking.
The way you're staring at the screen, it looks like you're going to bring up something. What's going on?
No, not yet. But I did want to mention, and I got okay. Awesome, Kyle. Glad we could help. Please do not go after land in areas that are abundant in land. And I am going to pull something up because I want to show this, because we've been getting, there's a certain part of Florida that people just seem to think like, oh, there's so many lots here. There's so many lots. And it's like, oh my God. But I'm going to show you what not to look for when you're looking for vacant land. If I can get this pulled up, here we go.
I'm going to get bracelets made that say, think like a builder.
Exactly. Guys, so here's the thing is you want to be in areas where there's a want. You don't want abundance in land. If there's an abundance of land, that's usually a telltale sign that you're going to have a lot of competition, and a lot of competition ultimately leads to no deals. So I hate to break it to a lot of you people, but that's just the name of the game. And give me 1 second, y'all. I am pulling this up right now. All right, here we go. Perfect. This is going to be
a nice little vibrato that you had there.
Oh, you like that?
No, you had a voice.
I got you. So here is an area in Florida, and Leah Acres. I think Leah Acres. I don't know. Can everyone see my? Can you see my screen, Isham?
Yep.
And so this is everything in red is lots that are currently on the market. Okay. I don't know. I get emails about this little town or wherever this is, like all the freaking time with people asking if we could help sell their deal. Well, I'm going to give you guys the insight. And if you also noticed, 90% of these are priced pretty much all the exact same. 22, 35, 20, 35, 25, 38, 40, 39, 29. So this is an area that I would run from. Just because there's a lot of land there does not make it a good area to wholesale land. I'm looking for areas such as, let's go ahead and just find something real quick while we're on Zillow. I'm looking for areas like this, where there is like, there's a handful. Why? Because there's a desire to be there. There's already residents. There's already property. And so there seems like not to be a lot of lots left in this neighborhood. So if you get a lot under contract in this neighborhood, a builder is going to be way more enticed to buy this because he knows that there's only 1 or 2 lots left. There's not a lot of competition, but yet we go back over here and a builder can literally, it's like a kid on Christmas. A builder can handpick any single one of these. Like, why is your lot better than this lot, right? Minus the price, but even these two, right? What's the difference? There's probably not going to be much of a difference at all. And so that's just something I wanted to point out real quick is pay attention when you're looking at areas like this and you're trying to either find a market or find a deal. I am running away from areas that have an abundance. Look at this, guys. And they're all the exact same price.
That's crazy.
Right? Do not go into areas like this.
Tanner, for just fun, can you look up the amount of new construction in that same area with all those lots for sale?
Yeah, absolutely. That's a phenomenal idea. So let's do this.
So the reason, obviously, why we're doing this is, I mean, if there's a bunch of lots for sale and if there's just a ton of new construction, hey, maybe there is opportunity there. Then you want to come in and, and get deals. But when you saw that thing with all that red, all that available land, and now you're looking at the amount of new construction, lopsided. Hard.
So fun fact, there is a lot of brand new construction, right? So here, this is actually fun because here's the thing. This is what I'm looking for then. If you're still interested in an area like this, because there's obviously an abundance of land, I'm looking for lots that are already next to a new build. I want to be next. I want these two, right? I want this one. Why? Because it's more appealing, right? People, like, if there's a home that's on the market or sold for 400 or 380,000, you build a house right next to that, a builder can easily project what he can expect to sell that home for. And so that's what also builders want to do. They want easy projections. Now, if you have a lot that's, over here away from new construction, like, I don't know, right here, there's not a lot of options, or there's a lot of options in terms of what these new constructions are listed for. But again, this is a very unique area, in my opinion. It's actually really hard to go after because you're competing with so much land. If there was, again, a handful of lots listed, but all this new construction, beautiful. But the fact that there is literally an inhumane amount of lots that are listed, I'm still not, even with all the new construction, I'm running from it. I'm just being honest with you. Because unless you get a deal that's like, you can find a lot in here that someone's like, yeah, I'll take $1,000 for it, and you can turn around and try to sell it for 15, that makes sense. Why? Because 15,000 is less than all of these other lots, right? So that is appealing. That's your separator. But if you're trying to go under contract with something in here for 15,000 and you're trying to sell it for 30, you're no different than 99% of these lots that are all listed in your same price range. So again, you want to be different. Builders want, the fun fact with land is builders aren't opposed to paying market value when you're wholesaling them land. But what they do want is they want desirable areas. The biggest thing. They will buy a deal. Unlike you can't go to a fix and flipper and try to wholesale them a market value property. It doesn't work that way. Why? Because one, they just have it. Go ahead, Isham. What were you about to say?
Sorry, man. I was going to say, why does a builder want desirable in a desirable area? These are the questions that I have when I first got started. Like, okay, I mean, you're saying all this cool stuff that makes sense, but why? Like, why? But I'm sure you'll go ahead and explain it. And it's like,
So builders want stuff in a desirable area because they don't want to sit and hold that property for so long. And so again, here's my other concern with this area, right? We just saw there's a ton of new construction, but what did we just see with a ton of new construction? There's like 1,000 that's listed active, right? So what does that tell you? Not only is the builder competing with all these other builders that, have built all of these homes, right? But that builder is also, or the end user who that builder is going to sell to, also has the opportunity to cherry pick. And so if there's one if one faucet is wrong in one of these houses, an end user that is dying to live in this area can go to the 60 other homes that are listed and handpick which one they want, because they're all priced the same. So again, builders want to be in desirable areas, but they also want that, like, I can't think of the freaking name. There's inventory and then there's desirability. They want to be in desirable because they can sell it quicker. The longer a builder has to hold on to a property and it's sitting on the market, the more money they lose. Because most builders, yeah, it cuts into their profit. Because most of them are using a construction loan to fund, or a private lender to fund their build. And guess who they have to pay every month? They have to pay that bank, or they have to pay that lender. So that eats into the profits. I just talked to a builder last week who's had a property in a really good area, which is a shock. But he has not had any luck selling this thing, and he's only going to make like $8,900 on this after paying all of his commissions, because it sat on the market for so long because there was so many other new constructions in that neighborhood. Desirable area, but a lot of competition. Builders don't want competition. So imagine going through all of the hassle, a year of all the work to put into a new construction build, and only make $8,900. That's why I avoid areas like this, and that's why builders avoid areas like this. So let's see. Let's find one of these. Let's see how long it's been on the market real quick. Scroll down.
Hard to see a price cut. It's not good. Price cut $100. Oh, that's when they.
So that one's actually only been listed for 2 months. That's not bad. The average in our market, the average a home sitting on the market is 60 days. So let's see. So that one's 6 days. So some of these are really new. That's awesome. So 24 days. They are popping up like candy over here. But again, guys, like, what's the difference? I don't know. To me, I'm not, like, this thing has been that's for about a month or so. I was trying to find one that's like not that active, but I guess this is a very hot area. I'm still not going into it. I'm just shooting everyone straight. I'm shooting everyone straight. So if you want to take the chance to go for it, by all means do it. I'm not. Driving for dollars around the new construction is a gem. Let's see what Kyle said. There you go. Awesome. Perfect. Yeah, driving for dollars is the best way to find land deals. To be honest with you too, a lot of land deals don't pop up on lists. They don't pop up on Zillow. They don't pop up on GIS maps, because there's a lot. There might have been just a demolition done. Something may have happened. The city has not updated those lots. Land is usually the last thing the city cares about, and so usually it takes them a little bit to update that stuff. And so driving for dollars for land is beautiful. Just make sure if you're driving for dollars, get the parcel ID, APN. Because honestly, guys, here's a little secret. Our best deals have come from lots that have not had street addresses. Like, they've only had parcel IDs. Why? Because most lists don't pull that. And so you're calling sellers that are not getting called or mailed a lot, because a lot of mailers, a lot of companies that are pulling these lists for either mailers, cold call, they're pulling just quick lists based on addresses versus APN numbers. So driving for dollars is huge in land. We do it virtually.
Hey, real quick, I just wanted to give a quick shout out to Fareed. I see your comment, brother, and please know it's something we're going to discuss here at the end really quickly. But it's a tough decision, and it's only because we're a small company, man, and we just unfortunately do not have the time to bring on brand new people. But look, dude, here's the thing: keep showing up. Like I said, keep showing up. Ask your questions. Figure out the basics on your own. You know what I mean? We'd be happy to bring you on board, but we do not have the manpower or the ability to train up brand new people. And so with that being said, as we wrap up the show, I just want to let you guys know that we are hiring acquisition specialists. Got a couple interviews coming up next week. And look, here's the thing. Like I was just telling Fareed, I hope I'm saying your name right, brother. I know you have FA on here, but we're looking for people that have a desire to go all in on land, right? If you are in the single family residence and you're saying, look, I like this land idea. I want to get in development. I want to get in a building. My goals align more with what you guys are doing. And so give us a shout. Again, one of the guys in our team last month did 10 grand take home. This month he's going to be a lot more than 10 grand. Let's put it that way. He's got one deal right now. It's in the pipe that may net him 30 grand. It's he's using all the stuff that we learn, all the coaching and everything that we're helping him with. But he wasn't brand new. He had been cold calling single family for a while. He understands the vernacular. He understands how to communicate with sellers. He's not super proficient on the land. And he just loved the vision of what we're going to be, what we're building, what we're doing with Unwind. So if you're in that world, if you're in that mold, then consider joining us. And here's the thing, like I said the past few videos, our interview process is fairly thorough, and it may seem highly unnecessary with all the different steps, but they're for a reason. And we just want to weed out the people who don't really want to do this, and we will do that for sure. So if you're just, if your true intentions are to just, make a little bit of money or to make a lot of money and then move on, we'll definitely vet that out. We will, I promise you. But if you've got a good heart, if you've got good ethics, if you've got a good willingness to learn, if you're coachable, and then you have a solid understanding of real estate, more specifically the real estate investing world. You know what I mean? If you hear the word novation and you're like, what the hell is that? I've never heard of that before. Probably not the person we're looking for, but we're also not looking for the person who's done novation deals. We just want you to understand the environment a little bit. Because again, we're very small team. And we just don't have the ability to teach that kind of stuff. So learn that stuff on your own. Keep coming back. Do a deal, and then reach back out. Be glad to have you. If you are one of those people that have done deals before and you just want to pivot to land, you really want to work with a team that can help you grow and start putting some money in your account. I make no promises. But just reach out and we'll have that conversation.
Awesome. Yeah. And with that kind of concludes the episode. We got to wrap this thing up, stick to our timeline of 1 hour, but guys, make sure you keep coming back. Make sure you keep, putting in comments. We, like I said, guys, we've said it over and over again, but we want to interact. That's why we do this. We don't do this just to sit here and talk for an hour. Ideally, we would only like to talk for 10 minutes and then answer all the questions. And that's the only time we talk. Like, that's what I would love. And so again, we're learning as we go. And we're hustling. We do this every single day, guys. This isn't a part-time thing for us. This isn't a hobby. Literally our company, and everyone on our company, we're all in on land, learning land, developing land, loving land. Land is fun. Land is cool. Land is sexy. That's the vibe we want to have. And so make sure you guys keep showing up, keep asking questions, like, subscribe, share this, do everything, because that's ultimately why we do it. So we love y'all. Those are my final words. And for this episode, come back next week. We're live every Wednesday, 3 p.m. Central Time, 4 p.m. Eastern Time. And let's get it going. Let's do some land deals.
Let's go. Peace out.